Hello everyone, this is the video for homework 1. Now we've prepared a homework for you. It has 2 questions in it and the due date is the 30th October. Now the first question is a pattern generating a function. You are going to implement a function that is called generate. It takes an integer and creates the following pattern. I have provided 2 different figures so you can get a better understanding. Now we are giving the function an integer value between 2 and 30. So based on that number you'll generate the following pattern. Now it is going to read the number using scanf. This is more of a main function thing, so in the main function you will use scanf and just get the number, pass it to the function and see the result. Now during the printf that you are going to use, please use %3d because there is a certain symmetry in the spacing. In order to have that effect still, we will use 3-digit displaying of integers. So hard coding is not allowed because I have given a certain interval, but it should be a generic code, an algorithm that generates this whole thing, because we can increase n to whatever we like and the algorithm should still work. So please don't just take this whole structure, place it in a single printf and then post it as a code to us, because that will not be graded at all. So yeah, if you are using for loops and printf and you have a dynamic algorithm that generates this, you're on the right track basically. So this is the first question. Let's look at the pattern in more detail. Now you can see that in the middle of this box or rectangle we have the number 1, and that number is surrounded with the numbers 2, and that box is kind of surrounded with the numbers 3 and then 4 and then 5. So this is kind of the pattern, and you can increase it up to 30 and you'll see the following. We have a 1 surrounded by 2s, by 3s, by 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, and it goes up to 30. You can see that the whole first row is 30, the last column is 30, the last row is also 30, and the first column is again 30. And as a quick tip, your algorithm is going to be printfing line by line, so it's a sequential printf command that you are going to generate somehow. So therefore, for example, the first one is, it is already known that you will generate 30s for the first row. So how many, that might be needed to calculate it, but you get the idea. So it should be a line by line code and it should generate this. So this is the first question. It is 60 points worth, so it's 60% of the homework basically. Then the remaining part is another question, which is the implementation of a Newton's method. You're going to write a function using recursion, and this function will use 2 different functions. It will call them, so you will have 2 prototype functions here. We will have a polynomial. It will depend on x and it will return the value. So this is kind of px, the mathematical way of px. And we also need the derivative of a polynomial, which is quite easy. These are given functions, sort of. You are just going to use it in your algorithm. And if I change pol and dipole here, these 2 functions, it should still work for polynomials. Now we need the derivative and the polynomial itself, the ratio of that, and an initial guess, which is going to be 0 in our implementation. So our first initial guess, our first step, is to define xn equals 0, for example. And then we will just calculate this ratio and subtract it from our initial guess, and we will have a new guess. And this new guess will be plugged in again in this ratio, and it will subtract it from the previous guess. You will get a new guess. This will continue on until you reach a certain point where your solution is your current guess. You have to calculate or determine how you can decide upon that. But basically, the polynomial satisfies its solution. So that should be basically a thing that you should take care of. Now, these are the two questions that you are going to hopefully answer. And what, in terms of expectations, have we from you, or what do we expect from you? Basically, you will not create a report. You will not create anything in Word or PDF, anything like that. You will just provide us a single C file that we then going to compile automatically, and to a certain degree also grade automatically. So a code will inspect your code, run it and test it, and then give you a grade. At points where I need to jump in and look at your implementation, that will also happen. But basically, your code should compile, because a autocompiler and autograder function or program will examine your code. So it's not going to be me, it's going to be a certain piece of program that I've written. So basically keep that in mind, that a computer will compile your code and test it. So that's important. And I have already prepared a template for you. Therefore, it will not be that big of a deal to deal with this .c file, or which C file you should upload. You will only upload one single C file that I'm going to give you as a template. There will be also a main.c file or main function, but you don't have to submit that. Actually, you shouldn't even submit that, because that's just for you to test your code, your algorithm, if it works or not. So basically, don't upload the main file, just upload the single C file. So here I have also a reminder that your main C file is not even going to be taken into consideration, because I have my own main.c file that is going to test it for different cases. So your code should be compiled without error, or your grade will be automatically 0. So if it's not compiling, don't even send it. Yeah, each functionality will be tested. If your submission is late, each day you're late, you will be deduced 10 points. And of course, cheating is not allowed. Once cheating is detected, all the cheaters, all involved in this submission, will be graded 0. So this is because of the fact that cheating is quite easy in these cases, is also tempting. Please don't cheat. So that's basically the idea here. So about the template files that I'm going to give you is one, we will have this main function, this main.c function file basically. Here you can just write some code on your own in order to test your, for example, generate function here. Provide the different n values and see if it's the right pattern, if there are any errors or not. For question 2, you can also write some test functions or codes. By the way, here you have all sorts of comments here. Please read them. Please be cautious. Do not submit this file is the first line of this file, so you should never, ever, ever submit this file. You can put in an implementation here because you want to test your code. So what you're going to do is expand this poll and dpoll function for the second question in order to be able to test your code. For example, you can plug in x squared plus 2x plus 1 for the polynomial definition and its derivative for dpoll, which would be 2x plus 2, I guess. So you can just do that, but don't touch this one here and this one here, because those are prototype definitions. You're just going to call them. And your student.c file, which you are going to submit with your algorithm embedded into it, submit only this file, do not change anything, only add the implementation. So implementation goes here, so your whole code for your first question should be placed in here. It has n, and it will just create the printf statements accordingly. Here, do not implement it here, poll and dpoll, because those are not going to be implemented in here. You should implement them in main.c. So if you follow along the comments, you should have zero trouble basically, and your iteration recursive code for question 2 should be in here. I've just placed the return a double A in order to be able to compile it. And there's also a compile Bat file, if you're using Windows, you can use it freely. Main.c, student.c will be compiled into main. Of course, this will not be the case for me. I'm going to use a whole different piece of code that'll do things differently, probably. But yeah, I have them also as files, and I will also they will also be available as files to you. I have also main.exe, so basically you're going to test your file with main.exe. main.exe. At the moment the main file is just empty, does nothing. You can implement code as you wish. So you should only submit this student.c file, put your implementation into these lines. Don't change anything. Don't change the name of functions. Don't change anything about this, because then it will not compile. And if it's not compiling, it is not going to be graded. So other than these limitations, it's actually not that hard. I hope that you will enjoy this homework and learn stuff about C. So good luck.